Imagine going out on a second date with somebody and realising they were an absolute psycho, but you weren't allowed to break up with them for 4 years. You just had to put up with them as they ruined your life. Recall elections enabled you to break up with bad politicians who are obviously not right for you. In only 2 years, we transformed from one of the most free and prosperous nations in the world into a place where you can't leave your home without express permission, a mask and a tracking device on your phone. The Liberal Democrats will give you a way out. I'm John Ruddick and I'm the New South Wales Senate candidate for the Liberal Democrats. In this video, I want to talk about the second policy in our party's Freedom Manifesto, which we put under the heading Recall Elections. The response to COVID has demonstrated just how unaccountable governments can become between elections. What we're proposing is three things. Firstly, citizens must have the right to recall power-mad politicians. If Scott Morrison were to block you from travelling or returning from overseas, you could get a petition signed by a certain threshold of people, trigger a by-election or a full general election for the entire government if we get sufficient signatures. The second thing we want to do is enable the citizens' veto on any legislation. No longer will citizens have to camp in front of Parliament House day and night or to protest with no guarantee that it will make any difference. Citizens should be able to veto legislation. Legislation does infringe our freedom. Obviously, some legislation is good, but we want to give the citizens the power to trigger a referendum to remove legislation. And lastly, this policy will make voting voluntary. Some people are disinterested in politics. Some people are apathetic. And some people who are interested in politics say, I don't like any of them at this election and I want to sit home. We've got to give people that freedom. What happens at the moment when we're all forced to vote, even the people that don't want to vote, it means that our politicians, knowing that their bases are going to vote, only focus on the apathetic middle. We need politicians that are going to appeal to their base, convince their base that they've got the right vision, and convince the middle. That is the democratic ideal. Human history tells us that democracy is a good thing, but we need to keep working on our democracy. We need to keep refining it because politicians and government will always find a way to take away our liberties. These three policies that the Liberal Democrats are fighting for at the next federal elections, recall elections, citizens' veto over legislation and voluntary voting, these are three tangible steps, important steps that will really put power back in the hands of the people. Please read about it further in the Liberal Democrats' Freedom Manifesto. Thank you.
Authorised by John Humphries for the Liberal Democratic Party, Mount Waverley, Victoria.
The government keeps piling on more regulations that they are suffocating small business. Between 2013 and 2017, this Liberal government added over 100,000 pages of regulation. Hi, I'm John Ruddick and I'm running for the Liberal Democrats as their Senate candidate in New South Wales. In this video, I want to talk about the sixth policy in the Liberal Democrats' Freedom Manifesto, a small business policy. Research shows that red tape costs the Australian economy $176 billion every year. Some regulation is essential, but most of the time it's pointless and it just feeds the bureaucracy. The Liberal Democrats want to cut red tape so small business can thrive. We will do this by implementing the following. 1 in, 2 out policy. Every one new regulation issued, at least 2 prior regulations must be identified for elimination. We need to remove retail trading hour restrictions. Businesses must be able to determine their own opening hours without government interference. Cut and decentralise the minimum wage. Australia currently has the highest minimum wage in the world. Larger businesses can afford to replace workers with machines or offshore, but small businesses just have to cope with less staff. We need to relax occupational licensing and certification. No more pointless PDF questions to get your cert for unskilled roles. We've got to learn on the job. We need to cut green tape. Environmental regulations are out of control and look set to worsen with the insane net zero emission targets. Technology and entrepreneurialism will do a far better job at protecting the planet than a bunch of politicians flying on their private jets to catastrophise climate alarmism conferences. We need a government that is pro-startups, not one that's always trying to sort of bully new entrepreneurs. We need to liberalise employment law. We'd make it easy and straightforward for small businesses to employ people under flexible agreements that work for employer and employee. One of the most heartbreaking outcomes of COVID hysteria is that it has smashed small business and strengthened the dominance of big business. Big business is big enough to look after itself. The Liberal Democrat small business policy will see more people employed, more small businesses thriving, and entrepreneurs creating a better future for us all. Please check out our Freedom Manifesto.
Authorised by John Humphreys for the Liberal Democratic Party, Mount Waverley, Victoria.